we'll go ahead and get started just to be conscious of time for everyone. But welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. Um, you know, we're here really to speak to where we are at here in agriculture, which is at a crossroads. I really think this year for ag has been pretty tough. There's been lots of highs and lows. And we are seeing that the traditional ways, accountants and advisors are being challenged with their farming clients because of market volatility, evolving technology, and changing client expectations, which I know has been a huge influence. So today we're hoping to show you a better way forward and one that transforms you from being more, compliance-based to being, a strategic partner in your farmer's world. And yeah, we're excited to walk you through that. My name is Erin Eric. I'm a senior account executive here at Figured, joined by Mitch, my counterpart. We're both here in Denver, and we're excited to be with you today. We together work with accounting firms across the entire North America, so our Canadian friends here in the US. And what we're going to share with you today really isn't a theory. It's hopefully a practical tiered framework that you could implement this week if you really wanted to. Really focusing on delivering budgeting, forecasting, and planning services at scale. So by the end of today, we really hope that, you can be implementing this in your own practice, or at least are exploring how it could work best with you and your clients. Awesome. But before we dive into the logistics and solutions of everything, we really want to talk about what we're hearing from our partners, especially this year. Some of these might sound familiar. You might have said them yourself, but I love the idea of being a strategic advisor, but I have my perfect spreadsheets or my clients they might want these things, but they don't have the right data to be able to produce a budget that you're showing me. So these are really all systems of, a system. The old way of doing farm accounting really is not going to be able to be scalable. And today we want to talk to what we think is the best way of implementing budgeting that's not only going to help your firm, but also help your farmers, which is what we're all here for, right? So what we talked about in our last budgeting webinar with our friend Paul Nefer was talking why. Why should you be budgeting? I think it's pretty evident just due to market volatility, evolving client needs. Farmers are needing more and more reporting for loans and such. And then as well, I do feel most of you understand that there is strategic value there. There is an opportunity to be able to be that advisor for your farmer, but it is difficult to know how to do that. So today we want to dive extensively into that how framework with specific tools, exact workflows, and then from conversations from our advisors and partners, a three-level framework honestly modeled on those types of conversations we've had where you can take actual steps towards implementing the services at your firm. So the why is awesome, and we had a lot of fun with Paul. But I really think that today will be applicable to you and be able to show you, yeah, I get like that there's value there, but how do I actually do it? So we hope today at least plants the seed on how you think you could do it, how we've seen it successful, and we'll be diving into that into detail. And what that solution looks like, the how specifically, is a practical framework with delivered with ag-specific tools. So that really looks like using this tiered approach with any one of your clients, but meeting them where they're at. So instead of doing a white gloved approach with every client, like, okay, I'm sitting down with them, I'm building a budget each year that looks different from client A to client Z, you are basically creating a tiered, bucketed framework where you can group your clients and be able to have figured support each level of those tiers. You can do something from a quick budget creation. So you have a farmer just simply interested in taking a look at that to someone who's really looking to do a 5 to 10 year projection plan or needs a very intense loan renewal. So we hope to dive into that today, and Mitchell's actually going to look at this tiered framework a little bit further.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. And so, look, this is probably the last little bit of talking we do before we dive into the platform. I know that we're pressed for time. We just want to get in there and see how things really work. But I do just very quickly want to break down what we sort of see this three-tier framework looking like. And again, this is based on conversations and projects we've had with our partners all over, not only North America, but also down in Australia and New Zealand and in the United Kingdom as well. So, at that basic level, we're just getting a working budget done in about 5 minutes. It's simple, it's effective, it's going to answer a quick question on whether I'm going to have some cash this year or not. And then at that intermediate level, we're going to go down into tracking, production at those different enterprise levels. So getting a little bit more granular, showing things at a per acre, per head value, but then really starting to really understand what those specific metrics might mean as well at an enterprise level. And then that advanced level, then we're really getting into, that sort of top tier. We're going to get right into the details. That's that multi-year forecast, 2, 3, 5, 10-year scenario plans, but also having that live balance sheet data information in there as well, having a real up-to-date market value balance sheet, and then being able to analyze that all across, multiple years as well. So, the beauty of this framework is not needing to start at the top. It's just starting, when your client is ready, and then growing from there. So we're just going to look into what that first basic tier looks like, basic budgeting. And we think this is sort of more from that, whether you're a bit more time pressed or you've got guys that are interested in this, need it, but you're not quite sure where to start. I think it comes down to just being able to at least answer some really key fundamental questions. Will I make money this year? Is there going to be enough cash am I going to need an extension on my headroom? Do I need to go talk to the bank sooner rather than later? So it's just being able to answer those questions really quickly. And I think it's really designed for speed, clarity. You're not actually, to be honest, you're not trying to be perfect here. You're trying to be really useful. You're trying to answer those questions, meet them where they're at, and then grow them and support them from there. So I get that the challenge is also real in these situations. Records could be missing. The client wanted the budget yesterday. But then we've also got, plenty of people who have been farming without budgets for years. They've run those numbers in their head on the back of the napkin. And yep, no discredit to those systems because they've probably got by for a long time. But I also really do, believe that if we can take some of the data and information that is actually readily available today, we can start to get into something pretty valuable. So yeah, we're going to get right into it now. So in the next sort of 10 minutes or so, in this demo, I'm going to show you basically how to create a budget from last year's actuals in about 5 minutes. Then we'll just go through some of the real quick time-saving features as well. So being able to, edit lines at a percentage level, and then obviously show you what some of the outputs look like. Just some real basic cash flow analyses, some variance reports. Based on the feedback from a lot of our partners, these are the main things that they're reporting, they're running and showing their clients as well. So yeah, Erin, I might share my screen and
Perfect.
we'll get right into it.
I've stopped sharing.
Cool. Awesome. And hopefully everyone can see that. Come up
I
here.
can see it.
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. So in this basic budgeting tier, the main area that you're going to live and spend a lot of your time in is going to be in the planning grid tool. Might look pretty familiar. It's certainly got some of those Excel-esque features, but the key thing is being able to analyze things at a line by line level, but then also categorize as well into those farm specific categories, things like irrigation, vet bills, fertilizer, and so forth. But the first thing that I do really want to touch on as well is going, picture this as a completely blank slate. All these squares where you might see some numbers now. Well, let's imagine those are completely blank like some of these other ones here. We're going to come into the new financial year and we're just going to go import last year's actuals. Because we know that Figured is connected to, your GL system, whether that's QuickBooks Online or Xero in this case. So long as there's data that's been reconciled in the prior year and last year's bank statements, we can pull that forward, click that import button, and there's the baseline done in the space of about 30 seconds. So The beauty of that is from there, we can start to look at some of these numbers and go, well, what do we need to start to change? What do we need to adjust? Let's take our, land rental income. We know that this is what we received last year, but we're expecting to, increase that by, say, 3% going into the next season. Just come down, adjust by 3, and those numbers will update. That's all going to update your, closing cash position at the end of each month. That's all obviously flowing through into the cash flow reports, which we'll get into as well. But I think the key thing, where we've seen other partners use this as well, is it can be something that's done by anyone in your team as well. So, you could simply ask them, hey, look, we need a budget rolled over into the next season. These key, top operating expenses, top operating income lines, we need to adjust by this amount. Run a report. Let's see where we're tracking. Another feature that could be quite handy in that sense as well is if, we might know what an annualized amount is going to be for the upcoming season. So take my seed and plants bill. We can see last year it was 30,000. That's what we've rolled over. But we know this year actually we managed to get, maybe we got a little bit of a better deal. We're going to say it's going to be $25,000 this year. Now we know that we can't just go in and spread, $25,000, average it out every month because there's cyclical flows. We're not paying the same amount every month. So again, ask that team member just to go and base it completely on what happened last year. We'll spread it on the curve. We're going to go to our actuals and find 2025, take that annual number, hit spread, and it's going to update it based on exactly when we made those payments in the prior season. So in this case, we can see that I only made payments in January and March of 2025. So it spread that to 25K accordingly, based on what happened in the prior year. So again, it's all just based on what's already happened. That data's there. We've reconciled the accounts for tax and compliance purposes. It's just quick, simple, get the numbers on the page and let's see where this closing position is going to be. The cool thing here as well is that we can go in and add any notes and assumptions. All of these notes are then going to flow through again onto those reports. Leave a comment, put your notes in, and have all those assumptions that ready to go to refer back to. If we know we inputted a number, we can go back and see why. Maybe what was the calculation on that. Again, just understanding where we made those models and assumptions from. And then the last thing you can do as well is you can come in here and make as many different versions and cuts to this budget as you want using the snapshot tool. Think of that snapshot as almost like your save as. Like we can take this version, save it, that leaves an audit trail for us. We can revert back to that budget if we have to, if we adjust things and we don't like the way they're looking. We can compare those reports side by side of those different iterations and different cuts as well. So the beauty of it is that you can just come in here, make as many as you want, and model out each of those different scenarios over the course of a year and see what our cash position is going to be. Cool. That's, in all honesty, that is the basics of the planning grid. I don't think, if you wanted to just get started or answer those quick and simple questions, I do think this is how you can really build it out pretty efficiently. Diving into the reports, we're going to see all manner of different, financial and production reports. We're obviously bringing a lot of information and data together. But in this basic one, again, we're just going to focus on, I think, the two reports being the cash flow report and the variance report. So if we open up a cash flow, we can see I'm running my 2026 year. Again, I can go and look at all the different multiple years in there. Anything historical, we can run that as well. And then I'm going to show some totals. I'm going to add in those planning notes. That means it's just going to add an appendix at the bottom of the report, leaving those different comments that we made back in the planning grid as well. And then I've just included my top operating expenses as well, just to include it, add a bit of color to the report. And then we can start to see, all those different models and assumptions built out at a monthly level. It's also at a category level as well. So if I want to, open out my freight and trucking expenses to see what specifically was happening in that column, I can save that and run the report as well, or we can close it all up as well, just to keep things really light and simple. The other option here as well, obviously this is looking at it at a month by month level. If you just want to look at it annually, change it over to annual, add in the last 3 years as well. All it's going to do is add in a different column for each of those years and showing all that information at an annualized level. That's really the long and short of the cash flow report. Again, it's a pretty basic report. We know what they all look like. but it's going to take all that data and information that we've inputted. And as we got actual starting to roll through that season, they're going to start to overlay on top of that cash flow report as well, which leads really nicely into obviously the variance report as well. So the variance report is going to be able to take those different versions of the budgets, and as the actuals start to flow in, as we reconcile them at the end of each month, at the end of each quarter, we can start to show those side by side and go, well, where are we ahead, or maybe where are we behind on a given year? So in this case, I'm just looking at my actual year to date versus my forecast year to date. I'm also going to look at this actual year to date versus how was it at the same time last year as well. You don't have to use these options. You can create a custom view if you want to do the next 3 months versus the last 3 months. Go for it. That'll just add in another column into the report down here. And so scrolling down, again, we can start to see there's different enterprises broken out. Go to my milk and direct costs. So let's take a look here. Gee, we're having a tough year on the other farm income. We're $1 million down, but you start to get a bit of an idea of how it starts to visualize, some of those key metrics as we move from year to year. And it's about keeping things accountable, keep track of things, just run it each quarter if you have to. But because you've already rolled things over from the prior year, we've got those actually starting to flow through, mid-season. How are we actually tracking? Do we need to go and readjust that planning grid, save a new snapshot, and then update our reports accordingly? So, yeah, that is a real quick run through on, I guess, what we think the basic budgeting can really start to look like. It is something that I do believe can be smashed out pretty quickly, especially if you've got that prior year information available in the accounting file as well. So just to sort of, I guess take away a couple of key bits is that the actuals from last year feature, taking snapshots, take all the different versions and cuts as you like, have them all there ready to report against those different scenarios, different plans, have a wet weather plan in there, have a dry season plan in there, have them ready to go. And then obviously keep your assumptions and get your notes in there so that there's always going to be a bit of an audit trail. We've got a log of who made what assumption. We can go in there and see why they came up with a particular number as well. So when do we think you should stop at tier one? It's just when you've got a farmer or a producer who's coming in wanting to know, like, am I actually going to make money this year? Is there going to be cash around? You're done. We're not over engineering it. The aim of the game here is just to keep it as simple as possible, but it's going to provide something that we think is really valuable and answers those questions in the shortest time possible to support our producers and getting on with what they're really good at. Cool.
Awesome. Awesome. So kind of moving to that second tier, intermediate planning. We do feel that intermediate planning is probably where we work with partners most. It's getting more granular. It's giving you cash flow visibility at the operational level, insights into what's really driving profitability, and basically doing, per acre or per unit profit analysis. So it's answering questions that are getting you more away from basic bookkeeping or basic budgeting, tax prep, into basically real farm business intelligence. So we have a lot of partners that they're working with farmers. They're really starting to think about their farm as an agribusiness, as that's really a necessity these days. And the challenge is they're asking questions like, should I plant more corn or soybeans this year? Should, instead of doing that, actually invest more in my cattle operation, which this year, yes, you would answer. So the thing is that, these are this is awesome that your clients are asking you this. They're starting to maybe think of you more as that strategic partner. They're starting to think of you a part of their farming team, helping them really honestly make or break their profitability for the year by coming to you for this guidance. So that's a great cue that this is kind of what they're looking for. But if you are working with basic budgeting or simply producing the basic budget within Figured, it's going to be kind of tough to answer these questions with confidence. And especially if you're using just a spreadsheet or QuickBooks Online, that's not, taking into account the production information in addition to the accounting information. So in the next demo time here, I'm going to show you how production trackers can basically help streamline this profit analysis. I'll show you the kind of integration magic. So as you're building things in trackers, how that flows to a P&L and cash flow, and then as well the strategic insights you can get from the reports, and have the profit per acre and per head with field level insights. So we really feel this is where advisory gets powerful. You're able to start answering those questions of what's making me more profit. Um, and yeah, I'm excited to show you that. So let me share my other screen over here, which is always fun finding. Thank you, Zoom. Cool. So can you see my screen, Mitch?
Yep, we're all good.
Awesome, thanks. So with a basic budget, we spent most of our time in the planning grid, which is awesome. I definitely think if you're creating budgets now, because of our accounting integration, it does streamline that process a lot with last year's actuals. But if they are looking to dive deeper into the operations, we can move in figured to figured trackers. So these trackers really, I think, are the backbone of figured. You're starting to build out those operation budget buckets, where then you can start looking at per acre and even per head profitability that is not as possible on the full budget. So I'm first going to walk you through how, say your farmers come to you, they're looking to start planting for corn next year, and they're curious, like, what's next year going to look like based on the information I have now. So the information that you need first to start building this out really is going to be where did they plant corn this year or this coming year, what they're planning to do, and then what are their forecasted harvests. So those are two very it's production data that does not live in their accounting tool, but it is very important with building out their break evens and showing movements within their farm operation. So you can see here, I have forecasted a couple harvests for the next year, one being for sale, one being used intended for feed on the farm, which I'll show you how that reflects in the livestock operation. So I'm anticipating 100,000 bushels, and now I can also forecast my sales in here. So I have a few contracted sales so far at certain prices, and that's going to start building out that forecasted cash flow specifically for corn. Lastly, once you have your harvests, you have your sales for those harvests, you can start incorporating forecasts for the costs. So that can be done here on each individual level within Figured. You can forecast the transactions, and then it will start building out the price per unit and per acre. Within these transactions, you can plan down to the field level as well. I didn't go that granular, but since you have the fields living within this tracker, you can plan down to that level if you have that information from your farmer, or you can simply plan based on the acreage. So it really, again, depends on what questions they're trying to answer. So you can see now that I forecasted a few transactions within this particular crop season for next year, it's building out this forecast up here at the top. So a quick reference they can have just in regards to what you two have planned together. And then it will start building out the break evens of this crop season as the actuals start coming through. So Mitch showed you again, like how those actuals on a variance will begin pulling through. And then within this particular tracker, it'll show the farmer how they're doing. Now, the tracker is awesome. We do have partners that refer back to this particular view, but I would say the beautiful thing about the crop season is being able to run a report specifically on that work that you did within the tracker. So the crop season summary report pulls the whole crop season. So that's going to start from the moment they have a transaction associated with corn for 2026 to when the last bushel for that season is sold. So it does give you a full view for profit analysis from start to finish. And you can see here, this is pulling every forecast that I had put in the tracker, and then it will start being built out as the transactions come through QuickBooks Online in this case, and start building out the variance as well for a full season profit as the season goes on. But if you were just building, your farmers ask for a budget for corn next year, this could be a perfect deliverable for them. Secondly, like I mentioned, you can plan down to the field level within the tracker if you'd like. So that's going to be answering questions as, should I be planting more on field 1 versus field 4? What is the break even for each or yield per acre? This report's going to help answer questions like that. I went ahead and planned just to the acre, so these totals will be pretty similar or just basically according to the acreage they planted. But if you have information on, which fields are getting more love than others, you could plan, down to that level and get the profitability to that granularity. So pretty powerful. And again, all of that's done within the tracker itself. Awesome. So the other side of kind of the operational, cost forecasting is going to be livestock. And this workflow is slightly different as within Figured, the livestock tracker, you just create one and you toggle between years to do the forecasting. So you can see here, I'm here in 2026. I've forecasted out a few births, a few sales with my different stock classes. And then as those actuals come through QuickBooks Online, you'd reconcile them according to what actually happened. So I forecasted some sales at, price per pound that I'm anticipating and quantities, and be able to kind of utilize this as almost an Excel sheet, clicking in between each stock class. You also can add forecasted transactions up here. Again, just really what workflow works best for you. So if you're looking to forecast movements that your farmer has given you, you would do that here on the tracker level. If you want to go ahead and start forecasting expenses to this operation, we'd go back to the planning grid. So that is nice. You can do the forecasting for livestock right on the planning grid. You can for crops as well. I just did it within the tracker. So here, maybe you've already imported last year's actuals within Figured. You now want to start allocating these specifically to your cattle tracker. So for example, maybe we're going down to veterinary breeding and medicine. I know for the next year, I have these anticipated costs each month. And I know that it's all for my cattle tracker. So I've allocated those costs that have come through last year. I've tweaked it, just by X percentage, and now I've tied it back to my tracker and am forecasting just to that part of my operation. So I'll show you how that reflects on reports next. Or, for example, we know that, forecasting is all fine and good, but that can vary. That's so variable depending on what actually happens with the herd size. So we do have dynamic planning within Figured. So for example, for feed, I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost next year. I have, how much I, spent last year, but I do know I'm budgeting about $100 per head for my beef cattle, and I'm allocating that to that tracker to be forecasting that expense for the year. Now, this ties again to the tracker and will update according to your herd size. So if mid-year next year you lose half your herd or you gain a herd, it's going to adjust that forecast accordingly. So it's dynamic, it's tied back to the tracker, so you're not having to come back and change it according to what actually happened, because that, it's a time saver. So say you've spent some time, you forecasted some expenses here within Figured, and you want a similar deliverable to be able to show, hey, this is what you can anticipate for your livestock operation next year. One report that'd be able to show that is the livestock gross margin. So this livestock gross margin is going to show you all the budgeting that you did kind of movement wise within the tracker. And then as well, it's going to show you the direct costs you allocated within the planning grid. So you can see here the veterinary that got allocated here. Awesome. It showed up where I wanted it to. And then as well, you have your per head being built out here, and will continue to grow as costs are allocated to this tracker. So livestock gross margin, kind of that equivalent as a deliverable to say, hey, we've built a budget for your cattle operation next year. This is what that looks like. And they can start making decisions based on that together. Now, Mitch showed you a cash flow, projected cash flow, for the entire operation, which is awesome. But if you're doing all of this work in the trackers to do the forecasts, we actually have the cash flow by tracker report, which will show you, basically your cash flow, but broken down as well with those allocated transactions to the trackers. So this gives you, I added a couple nice graphs as well. So you can show their closing cash position, variance by category, a couple top operating expenses, and then you have your cash flow broken down by the tracker. So you can see here, I have some, transactions allocated to each part of my operation. And then any unallocated expenses or income will go ahead and flow at the bottom. So it is still full cash flow, but it does have the, spoken for transactions at the top with your trackers. In addition to the cash flow, we do have a P&L that looks the same as well, broken down by the tracker too. So again, it's giving them a more granular view, help them make decisions on profitability based on what's actually happening on the farm, and make decisions from there. So this is, again, a step up from basic planning, really answering those questions of, did corn do better than soybeans? Should I plan on X field over Y field? Should I grow my cattle operation? Definitely a step higher than, I would say, the basic budgeting, but able to, answer questions, I would say, in more confidence than just a high level budget. So let me pull our slides back up. Awesome. So you can see what we talked about, the key takeaways. That first, you're going to create the livestock and crop trackers, going to start giving you those cost centers to allocate and start budgeting for parts of the farm that before might have been really tricky or complicated spreadsheets. This definitely streamlines that process. Second, you do get the profit per acre, like on the crop season summary report, and as well the field level reporting if they want to go down to that granularity. This is huge because it does answer one of the most, I'd say, common questions, which is really, how is X doing better than Y, which with a basic budget is kind of difficult. Third, that gross margin reporting for livestock is huge, acts as that forecast for the upcoming year for that part of their farm, and it gives them a real sense of how their operation is doing and understand the profitability on the livestock level. Lastly, you do all that work in the trackers, you then can break down the cash flow and P&L by those tracker movements and be able to answer more high-level questions. This is your whole enterprise, but this is how X is doing according to Y, and just give them that better insight. So the beauty of intermediate planning is you are becoming that true strategic advisor. You're becoming more part of their farming team. Does require more data, but most of the time you are getting a level of this data already. It is just making sense of it within the platform, which we can help you with. And you're answering more of the questions like, which crop or livestock is making me the most money? Should I plant more or less next year? And being really able to optimize the advisory piece and build those long-term client relationships. So lastly, Mitch is going to go more into that advanced planning, which is a little step higher than that intermediate planning.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Aaron. So yeah, sort of the last stage that we want to get into today, and this is probably more for those, really highly engaged users. They're growth focused. They've got data readily available. There's information, bursting at the seams that we can use to go and make those decisions and obviously analyze and input data appropriately. So situations where we've obviously seen this used really commonly is when farmers, producers are wanting to expand. They're going in for, loan renewals, bank renewals, and they want, full market value statement of positions, detailed cash flows, and then also maybe those multi-year scenarios as well. So those 5 to 10-year plans, what if modeling and getting into, I guess a really into the weeds, into the detail. So I think, this is that real strategic advisory at its highest level. So In this final demo section, we'll show you, what that market value balance sheet can look like, and being able to input your own information into there. I'm going to give you a real quick sneak peek at our new custom reporting studio, which is currently in a beta phase. So in the final stages of going fully live, but we'll give you a good idea of sort of the data and information that you're going to be able to manipulate, add in there, and set things up exactly how you want. And then we're going to touch on scenario planning as well. So that's that real multi-year annualized information and what if planning as well. Cool. So let me bring my screen up, and hopefully you can see that there, Aaron.
I sure can.
Perfect. Cool. So, a question that comes up all the time is that, like, we've got this balance sheet data and balance sheet information, but the QBO file or the zero file just does not reflect what the market value of that is. So in the statement of position, it's where we can drag that data and information in, as the baseline, because obviously there's probably going to be something in there that we can start to use. But then we can start to pick, a point in time that we want to be viewing this balance sheet at, and then we can actually go and start to edit and adjust it into the next season. So hitting that unlock and edit, we can see here, anytime you see those green lines, that's the number that's been changed or edited. So in the case of my John Deere there, we've updated that to 190,000 from whatever maybe it was recorded at a different point in time back in the balance sheet. And say, for example, we know that it's been another season, she's probably depreciated just a little bit more. We need to re-record that at 175,000. And that's going to update, obviously, the balance sheet accordingly. We can then go and print this out, showing where do we stand at a particular point in time. But then we can also go in and, add in another asset if we need to. If we know there's something that hasn't been recorded on the file back in the GL, we can have it living in here and being able to record that, appropriately. And it's exactly the same for, your different loans as well. If you want to add in a family loan that might not necessarily live again within the GL, but we want to be able to show, what that position could look like as well. So in all honesty, it's still pretty simple in a lot of ways, but it means that you can actually go and produce something that's going to be really valuable, do it really quickly, take it to the bank, show where a lot of these numbers have come from, but also add in your assumptions on, why a particular value might have changed as well. So as soon as you're happy with how it's all looking, look that save and lock it down, and then we can go and run it all as a PDF report, include that into our normal reporting outputs, maybe alongside some of those cash flow and gross margin reports as well that we'd prepared earlier. So yeah, see it all coming through. It's going to reflect those values at the point in time that we were adjusting them for. In this case, the end of the month. But we can come back in here, run this as many times, as we want, and also compare it across multiple periods as well. So if we want to show it how it was sitting compared to 6 months ago, what might have changed, it's just going to add in more columns based on, where we had that balance sheet sitting at X point in time as well. Cool. The next thing that we're going to go into is our new reporting studio. So we can see for a start, we're going to actually give you the option to start creating your own custom KPIs and custom formulas as well. There's going to be a whole heap of default ones in there as well, but if there's a particular way that you'd like to show your own accounts and your own KPIs built out in ways that you and your clients understand, this is where you're going to be able to come in and build them. So if I open up my formula builder, I can come here and start to find some of these different financial values. Let's take my total income and say I want to divide that over another one of my cost accounts, or I might want to divide that by one of my production metrics as well. So all that data that we enter back in the crop tracker or the livestock tracker, if we want to divide it by my total season area, things like that, those are the types of KPIs that we want you to be able to build and manipulate in the way that makes the most sense to what you like to see, but also the way that is tangible and actionable by your clients as well, to break that data and information up. So come in, create your formulas exactly how you want, and then we're actually going to dive into the reporting studio itself. So there's going to be, again, some more templates coming into here, but you can also obviously build out your own ones in their own right as well. So if we take a quick look at this one that Aaron's built out for us, we can see, we've got a title in here. If you want to add a cover page, make it all in your own firm colors, or add the brand or the logo of the ranch that you're working with. Really personalize it, make it how you want. And then everything else starts to be editable. So you can start to drag things around, add in those KPIs that we were talking about. You can start to see, where does the data actually come from as well. So we're going to, trying to keep that data transparency really clear. And then obviously adding in your commentary as well. If you want to come in and add comments, that's great. What you can also do, and what we're recommending for those that have been, working this as part of our beta group, is actually just create your own perfect one pager. Add in, if we find our KPIs here, add in the ones you want. Obviously, you can find those different ones that you've been creating, add in the different comparison periods. Again, start to move things around, move things out if you don't want them there, and then add in some of those key reports as well. So we've taken out the cash flow report. We might just want to grab the KPI section from within that gross margin as well. Again, the main thing that I think would be the most beneficial here is build it out how you want, standardize it, and then you can start to really scale that, across all of your clients as well. But with something that makes sense, is a one pager, is data that, you've already gone to the effort of adding all of this in. Well, let's really start to show that in a way that I think is really valuable and is going to make sense to the most of your clients as well. So that, just to be really transparent on that one, it is in beta now, but it is available for those that might be interested in the coming week or two. So again, just give us a bell if you're interested in seeing that. I know that our early beta partners have been getting right into this and moving things around, setting things up how they want, and it's been great getting some of the feedback from that as well. So yeah, really exciting. The last part that I want to touch on today in that real detailed advanced planning is going into the scenario analysis. So this is for those real multi-year assumptions. We've seen full succession plans built out in the scenario tool, decisions whether to purchase or sell more, purchase more land, rent more land. Those are the sorts of things that we can really start to get into. So if I take this example here, purchasing an additional 100 acres up the road, it's going to drag in that opening balance sheet that we've got all set up. Obviously, you can go and tailor and adjust that again based on the current position. But then we're going to build out that proposition. So what is it that we're actually deciding on doing? In this case, I'm going to add on some more land. So add in the areas, what the value of that's going to be, and then what are some of those loans that we might need to take out on that as well. So again, it's adding in all those assumptions, bringing in an annualized rate based on that readily available data and the information that we might have on hand, and possible future market changes as well. So that updates that balance sheet, and then we can get into updating, what are our income and expense assumptions as well. What are our expected yields? What's the expected price for that? How does that change? We could change that from year to year. That's obviously all going to be updating, that value on hand at the end of the season, cash flow position as we look to sell specific, sell bushels, sell livestock, whatever it might be. And then finally, you're obviously going to be able to build out, those operating expenses as well. The key thing that you notice here that's different to a lot of the other stuff we've touched on today is that this is just annualized over that annual period. So we're not breaking it down into that monthly cash flow or anything like that, but we're going to be able to do this for up to 10 years into the future. So all the while that you're building out and entering in this information, you're building out, a key summary at the bottom. What does things start to look like at that per acre or per head level? And then we jump right to the reports at the end. We're going to have that summary again, a balance sheet, a cash flow report, a P&L report that we can then take, as that, again, that bank ready situation. Show out our assumptions and models, where are we going to look over the course of a season. Let's open up again, key indicators at the bottom. This is just going to be some of those key assumptions. Again, we all like to be visual and see how things are looking. In the case of this scenario, our closing cash position is getting significantly worse, and our equity position is decreasing, year to year. So what have we learned in this case? Purchasing 100 acres of Silversmith Road, that's not going to be a good move for us in this situation. So let's go and adjust it. Can we get different rates? Can we get a better price? Are our expected yields up to scratch? Things like that, go back and change that. The beauty of all the different scenarios as well is that once you've got one set up exactly how you want, you can copy them as well. So roll them forward if you've just got a baseline scenario, but we want to show what happens. Does it look like if we sell the place? What happens looks like if we put it into a trust? Show those different models over the course of a 5 to 10 year plan, and break things down into a way that's going to really obviously make sense when we're trying to answer those really important questions. So that really is what I think is the main key takeaways from, or the main things within advanced planning. I'll let Erin bring the slides back up, but the key takeaways are obviously going to be having those different scenarios for different situations, being bank ready efficiently. Obviously, there's a lot more data and information that we can add in and interpret appropriately, but it's getting things into a way that means we can go and have those conversations and get our producers the finance or the support or whatever it might be that they need going into a large decision. And then finally, being able to build those outputs relevant to the conversations you have. So that's obviously touching on that reporting studio. We want you to be able to, start to customize and build things out exactly how you want and for the conversations you want to have. So that's that shift from a real compliance-based discussion, taking that data and information into real strategic advisory. And I think you've got a real opportunity to be the first point of call when a client is coming in to make those big decisions on what next steps might really look like as well. Awesome. We're doing all right for time, Erin.
Awesome.
Do you want to start to sum things up?
Yeah. Yeah. So what we found in, based on the conversations we've had with our partners, like this approach is beautiful in the fact that you're meeting your client where they're at. You have a set service that you're, executing for each bucket, but you are growing them over time and answering the questions that they need without doing a white glove approach for every single client. So it's scalable, it's effective, and you're building, an advisory practice, not custom building everything one-on-one with each client. Now, we want to help you, do this effectively. We have seen the most supportive path that we have in helping you is this Figured Quick Start program. So it's helping you run with real clients, in this case before tax season. So we know time is of the essence. We've had quite a few partners do this program. It's a pilot of sorts. So you're helping, 5 clients basically match them in the right framework. We would probably start with one of the buckets. So pick 5 clients within one bucket. We're helping you execute the outputs, training you, doing and building repeatable workflows in Figured, and then helping you communicate the value and honestly the output when we're all finished. Um, if you This is for you if you're looking for, doing this with your real clients, you want hands-on support, more like weekly guidance, and you're probably ready to start and scale from there. If you don't have 5 clients in mind, we're happy to talk. We know with tax season coming up, it could be nice to pilot 1 client, try it out, and at least you have a case study to go into the tax season speaking to clients that could be interested moving forward. So it's definitely the lowest risk, effort, and high impact. Pricing, how this works, I know someone had asked about pricing. It's $70 a month for what we showed you today, so full budgeting and forecasting. So you would pay for the 5 clients, and basically we usually say a 3-month process of getting from start to finish. So Figured quick start, definitely the most training for your buck. We don't charge for the additional training. You're just basically paying for the subscriptions, and we're building a partnership with you. So I would say that we've had the most success in this way if you're looking to try it out and then scale from there. We do have limited time. We have limited spots between now and tax season, just giving the holidays are in between that. And so we are asking if you are interested, talk to us now. I'll be running a poll here. Please, if you are interested, put your interest there. But again, we do think it's kind of um, the easiest process, in my opinion. Couple of our partners below there have seen the benefits of the Quick Start program. Happy to connect you with them too if you're maybe on the fence on whether Figured's even something you're looking to implement. But awesome. We'll leave a couple more minutes for the poll. But something else I wanted to touch on was an upcoming event one of our partners is having, Adams Brown, Beyond the Harvest. It's going to be December 8th through 9th. It's virtual or in person. In person, it's in Kansas. This is a great event. They've had it the past couple years, just really to pull together leaders in the industry of ag advising, connect, build a network, but also to get 13 CPE credits. Our friend Paul Nefer will be there. They have some good key speakers, and as well, yeah, it should be a great event. We'll be there, and we'd be happy to meet you in person, which would be cool, or virtually. So
Yeah.
wanted to plug this. Early bird pricing ends November 21st.
Yeah, no, we're really excited to get back down into Kansas City, and yeah, Adams Brown are one of our main our key partners. We love working with them, and it makes sense for us to be supporting and helping them out with this event as well. So, yeah, if you've already registered, fantastic. If you haven't, I would really consider it. It's bringing together a lot of those finance those producers, sorry, excuse me, advisors and accountants in the ag space, and one room for a couple of days, go through a lot of the key updates, as Aaron mentioned. We have Paul Neffer there with us as well. So yeah, it's going to be a great couple of days if that works out.
Yeah, awesome. And then lastly, like I mentioned, we did get quite a few questions within the registration. We have 11 questions. So I'm going to go through those really quickly, but please add any of your additional questions in the chat box, and we'll be happy to reach out to you individually via email and answer those after. The first question we had was, do you have a referral program for accounting partners? So our referral program will be that Quick Start program. So if you go through our Quick Start program, you become a trusted advisor of Figured. More so, we're advertising on our website and to our users that you did this program, you know Figured very well. If you're interested in this kind of service, this is a person to go to. So I would say that is our referral program. Do we have templates for farm records? I would want a little bit more information on what you mean by farm records. I would say with our new reporting studio, any type of reporting or template will be at your fingertips. So you can really have the flexibility of creating whatever type of report you would like, pulling in information from Figured as well as their accounting platform. Third, any specific examples or success stories on how firms are using these tools to generate value and bill accordingly? I would say that tiered approach is what all of our partners are using, some sort of variation of that. They are not billing on time, they're billing on what the service they are providing is and the outputs that that client is getting. Now, what they're billing for that is completely up to them. We have partners that bill, uh, you know, per month or per year. They're kind of like joining a program with these advisors, and those that are paying per output, per amount of fields they're reporting on. So we'd be happy to connect you with one of our partners to talk through this further. We have seen people when they come to the billing, challenge, talking with their peers in their network has been how they iron out how they want to do it. So be happy to connect you. I'll find out who asked this question and get to you individually. How can I gain farmer ag clients? How can my services be the most valuable to them? That is a really great question. We've had a lot of people join their local co-ops. So a lot of these co-ops have just honestly community programs. Those are the best way to connect with your local farmers. Also too, a lot of farmers are online. That marketing your practice, they will see that. As much as they might be a little tech avoidant, they are online. We can tell you that. So I would um I would explore kind of definitely going to your local co-ops, maybe connecting with larger firms in your area. A lot of times they're looking for bookkeepers or maybe like conjoining helping each other. So I would suggest those types of approach. How do you create systems that work for each unique client? That's a great question. So as much as you can catch all with the tiered approach, it is to say within each client, you're going to have cases where they're asking for specific things. So the beauty of that is with custom reports, you can add, custom commentary, or you're diving a little bit deeper into a part of the bucket, right? But you still have a a lead on how you're addressing this client and how the services that you're providing for them. So I do think the system actually allows you to have some customization because you are taking, the heavy bulk load of determining what outputs you're providing, how much time for each client. You then have the efficiencies there. If they want XYZ extra. One, you could charge for that on top of the bucket service you're giving them. But two, you'd have the efficiency to be able to do something like that. But yeah, great question. What GL software integrate with Figured? Right now, QuickBooks Online or Zero. And then we did have a question with actually a local farmer. Lender will not offer operating loan due to mortgage balance. The land loan is 30% of land value. Interesting. Matthew, we will actually get back to you. I think it'd be great to connect with you one-on-one and see maybe what magic we can work with Figured. You are not the only person that we get with these type of questions. And maybe we could connect you with, a Figured advisor to support you further. And then lastly, how do you go about finding ad clients? Kind of addressed that earlier. Yeah, I would go to your local co-op, local resources. There's national partners like Ranching for Profit is awesome. I don't know, Mitch, can you think of any other ones like that?
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier, and there are so many awesome community groups. It's just a case of getting out into your community as well that are about connecting people, supporting people. We've all got great skills in specific areas. We want to be able to lean on those and lean on those rights of people. So yeah, my biggest recommendation is just getting into the community and talking with people. There's one quick question that came through in the chat as well. Will there be a recording of this webinar? Yes, there will be. You should all receive a copy of that. Hopefully by the end of today, if not tomorrow, in the email account that you registered for this webinar with. So yeah, if you don't receive that, please let us know, and we'll make sure you get a copy as well.
Awesome. Well, just conscious of time, we're kind of at the top of the hour here. We'll look forward to connecting with those that are interested in the quick start after this webinar. Thanks all for participating in the poll question. If anything else comes up, our emails are listed here. Feel free to take a screenshot, and then you'll also be receiving that recording from our marketing. Feel free to respond to that email, and it'll find one of us. So thank you again. Hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.